And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Kathy Gruver. Dr. Kathy Gruver is a PhD in natural health, a 12-time award-winning author of 7 books and a TV show host based on her first book, The Alternative Medicine Cabinet. She also has been featured as an expert in numerous publications and has appeared on over 250 radio and TV shows. Dr. Gruver has supported our chapter in the past, speaking at several of Camarillo's support group meetings a few times over the years, as well as most recent, our Patient Education Day this past February in Ventura County. And she even made a guest appearance at this year's Santa Barbara's Stepping Out to Cure Scleroderma before the pandemic hit. Dr. Gruver warmly agreed to provide a much needed talk relatable to the times that we're currently living in, entitled Happy in the Now, Living Well in Difficult Times. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Kathy Gruver.
Hey, everybody. I am so very excited to be here. For those of you who have seen me speak before, a little bit of the stress stuff is going to be sort of a repeat. It's really hard to talk about what's happening right now in the world without talking about stress. So we're going to go over that. Thanks, Tina, for the introduction. You forgot the most important thing, though, is that I'm a trapeze artist. Oops, why is this not moving? There we go. I seriously am a trapeze artist. To me, it's a mindfulness practice. It is something to get you out of that comfort zone and to really push your limits. And we're going to talk a little bit today about doing things that are fun and adventurous and exciting for all of us. So this is our first slide. This is our first technique that I'm going to be teaching. This is not a technical error. This slide is blank on purpose. And I've done so many talks where they want my slides in advance. And I've had organizers say, hey, we fixed that glitch in your slide deck and took that accidentally blank slide out. I'm like, no, it's the most important one. So this is the pause. So I invite all of you right now just to close your eyes and take a deep breath in and out. And when you're done, go ahead and open your eyes. Yeah, that feels pretty good. And that is actually our first technique. It's simply the breath. And I want you to do that breath again, but this time we're going to make a few changes. This time I want you to really concentrate on the breath. I want you to observe it as if you're watching someone else breathe. So I want you to see if you can tell where that inhale starts and stops. And then there's that little pause, and then where that exhale starts and stops, and then there's another little pause. So go ahead and close your eyes and do that breath again. Yeah, it's a little bit different, isn't it? And it's great when I see everybody in person. The difference between the first breath and the second breath is during the first one, everyone kind of goes, like maybe it's the first time you've been told to consciously breathe all day. Maybe it's the first breath you've taken all day that you're aware you're even breathing. The second one tends to be quieter. It's slower. It's more introspective. And when we're all in one big room, and I really can't wait till we can go back and do that, I can see just sort of the energy of the entire room shift. And what this breath does is several things for us. It allows us to pause, and that's why this slide is blank. And if any of you are familiar with meditation, yoga, mindfulness practices, martial arts, all of that stuff starts from the breath. The breath and that pause does a couple things. It stops that fight or flight response. So anytime we are experiencing stress, one of the first things that changes is our breathing. Either our breathing quickens or we tend to hold our breath. And I know I'm guilty of this as well. So a couple times throughout the day, I'll kind of do this like gaspy sort of thing, which isn't a yawn, but it also is an indication to me that I've not been breathing all day long. The other thing about this pause is it helps us to decide whether we're going to respond or whether we're going to react. It brings us back to this sort of centered self area where we can make a choice as to how we're going to respond to what's happening around us. And we want first responders, don't we? We don't want first reactors. Nobody has ever accused us of a knee-jerk response. Nobody's ever accused us of over-responding. It's those reactions that get us in trouble. It's those reactions that have us snapping at the spouse and flipping the guy off on the freeway. So to the extent that we can, we want to stay in that responsiveness and not that reactiveness. The other thing this breath does, the other thing this pause does, is it brings us back to right in the here and now. And what is so important about the now is nothing's wrong in the now. There's no stress in the now. The stress is behind us in those things we've been dragging along with us. And in that future stuff, those what ifs, right? Those what ifs that keep us up in the middle of the night. That's where the stress is. So to the extent that we can stay present, that is going to right off the bat help us de-stress. And whether it was our grandmother or a teacher or somebody at some point said, pause, take a deep breath and count to 10. Yeah, that's a thing that actually works. And that's what this breath does. And the final thing it does is it brings us back to the body. And when we're concentrating on the breath, it shuts out those other thoughts. When we're concentrating on our breathing, it is harder for other thoughts to get in. So if you have time to do nothing else when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling negative, when you're feeling overwhelmed, seriously, just taking that pause, concentrating on your breath, even for just a couple cycles of breath, really helps manage that stress, really helps stop that stress response. Because let's face it, we can't stop anything outside of ourselves. We can't stop what's happening with COVID right now. We can't stop whether we're upset about what's happening in the government. We can't control the traffic. We can't control all of those things outside of ourselves. The only power we have is to control our response to those things. So to the extent that we can, let's take that power. Let's take that power back, which is controlling our thoughts and our responses to those things that are happening around us. So let's just quickly go over what is stress. It's a perception that demands are going to exceed our resources. So it's that feeling that what we're dealing with is too big for us to handle. It's a threat, real or imagined, but it really is a perception. I love doing trapeze. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting. Others of you might find that incredibly stressful. I love horror movies and roller coasters. Other people find that horribly stressful. So we have to respect what other people perceive as stress and also what other people perceive as relaxation. Speaking of perception, so I want you guys to look at this little painting picture here. And I just want you to notice how many of you see that vase in the center? And how many of you see the two old people looking at each other? Now, this is a tricky one. How many of you see the Hispanic couple playing music and the woman coming out of the doorway to dance? Right. I know we're not used to that one. We're used to the vase and the two faces. But what I love about this image is there's three different things that you can be focusing on. And what we focus on, what we look at, is what we see. But of course, that sounds ridiculous. What we're looking at is what we see. But we can choose which of these images we are seeing. And if you didn't see them all at first, once you realize they are there, you can shift your perception and look at different things. If I back away a little bit, I can see the two figures a little more clearly. If I look at what would be the mouth of the guy on the right, it's the eye of the older gentleman looking at the woman, and then the vase in the center. It depends on where we put our focus. And this is so important in dealing with stress. We can choose whatever we want to look at. So right now, I want you all look around the room you're in, and I want you to notice everything you can that's red. Remember everything you see that's red. Okay, now everybody close your eyes and see if you can recall everything you saw that was blue. Okay, I know it's massively unfair. The blue stuff didn't disappear because you were focused on the red, you just weren't looking at it. And this is what happens when we're focusing on negativity, when we're focusing on those scary, negative things that are around us, that are in our environment, that are on the news, that are on the internet, that are in our thoughts. When we're focusing on the negative stuff, the positive stuff sort of fades away. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means we're just not looking at it. So to the extent that we can, shifting our perspective and looking at those positive things, looking at things we're grateful for, looking at things that make us happy, whether it's the animal catalog. Okay, I'm so entering my guinea pig. I'm going to get him a little Harry Potter costume, and I'm going to enter my guinea pig in this contest. But to the extent that we can, looking at those things that are positive. Maybe it's something funny online. Maybe it's telling jokes with your friends. Maybe you turn on, if I'm feeling down, I turn on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I laugh at the improv. I would so much rather put my focus and my perception on those positive things than what's happening in the world. Here's our human stress. So much of it is made in our minds. It's what we're seeing. It's what we're thinking. It's what we're ruminating on. This is everything that fails when we're stressed. This is a lot of stuff. Sleep, our patience, we know our immune system kind of fails when we're stressed. Our risk-taking, we actually take more dangerous risks when we're stressed. We tend to not have as much self-control. We don't set limits on ourselves. We also lose the ability to accept responsibility when things go wrong if we're in a stress state. And again, we tend to respond, or we tend to react rather than respond, we lose that. And here are some of the warning signs of stress. This list is endless. And what's so funny is I do a lot of radio and TV, and I was doing an interview, and the radio host started out by saying, why don't you share some of the warning signs of stress? So I went through a couple of these on the list, and there was dead silence on the other end of the phone. And nothing says good radio like absolutely dead silence. So I finally said, did we lose our feed? Because I had called into this radio station, and there was another brief moment of silence before I could hear the host go, oh no. And I said, oh, are we off the air? Do you need me to call back in? And he goes, no. I'm stressed. I had no idea. He seriously didn't realize that these things weren't normal. And what's amazing about our body is it tries to find homeostasis. It tries to find balance. So all of these things, our body starts to normalize after a while. Of course you have a headache. Of course you're smoking like a fiend. Of course you're restless and you have insomnia and you have thoughts of running away. We normalize all of those things. So if you see these signs in yourself, we don't always see it in ourselves, we think it's normal. But if you start to notice these things in yourself, in your colleagues, in your family, your friends, your children, this is a sign that something's going on. This stuff's not normal. And it's sometimes so frustrating because we'll go to our doctors and we'll say that we're experiencing these things and they go, oh, of course you are, you're over 40. This is not an age thing. This is not anything outside of stress. Now, again, sometimes we have these things, we cry, we forget why we walked into a room, we're just sort of feeling down or blue. But over time, these things are a warning that something's wrong and we have to look at them. The last talk I did in person was right when everything shut down for COVID. And they said, so are you going to address COVID in your talk? And I went, no, I mean, it's the same stress as everything else. And then as I got closer to that talk and I was about to get on a plane and I was about to travel to Texas and I stood in a room with very few people, most logged in the way you did, I started to really think about COVID and why this is so different. And I just want to acknowledge that this is a very stressful time. Everything is different. And these are just a couple of the reasons. So I just want to let you know it's totally okay that you're feeling stressed. I'm going to give you some tools to help with that. But what we're all going through right now, none of us have ever lived through before. There are so many unknowns. We don't know what the end point is going to be. It's not like we have a deadline on this. That would make this so much easier. We're getting so much conflicting information. Every time we turn on the TV, the radio, look at the newspaper, there's conflicting information about what to do about it and how the best route is. That's really disorienting to us. Here's the other thing that's big is things we used to do to de-stress, we can't do anymore. I can't go to dance class. There is no dance class. I can't go wine tasting. All the wineries are shut down. I'm finally able to get back on the trapeze. But from March until a couple weeks ago, things that I used to do to de-stress were gone. I can't get a massage. I can't give a massage. It's really infuriating. So we kind of have to adapt to this and find other ways to de-stress ourselves. We may or may not have been quarantined with supportive people, or maybe we're completely alone. I have several friends who were literally in the process of leaving an abusive marriage when this hit, and they're now stuck quarantined with that person. I can't imagine the stress of that. I am so lucky. I'm with an incredible man and we've been quarantining together and it's been amazing. Many of us are wearing so many more hats. We're homeschooling or we're dealing with grandchildren as well as trying to work from home and handling all this stuff. I saw there was an ad that went through, and it was a fake ad that went through on Facebook the other day. And you know how they have these like play kits for kids? They have like, you know, the burger joint in the kitchen and all these things we played with as a kid. It was work at home mommy. And it came with a baby and a fake computer and a bottle of wine. And there was clothes all over the floor. And I was like, okay, that's hilarious. And that's what so many of us are dealing with right now. This is both a real and imagined threat. We really could get sick from this. And also we're what-ifing ourselves. And like I said before, we've never lived through anything like this before. So if you were feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious during this time, I want you to know it's completely normal. And we're all in this together and you are not alone. Groups like we're doing right now are there for you. So if you need help from somebody, reach out. We're all in this together and we're going to get through it easier if we're surrounded by people who are supportive and loving us. Now, talked about all this stress, blow it off. Okay, now what do we do about this stress? Okay, you can meditate, take a walk, can't get a massage now, but maybe your spouse can massage you or a kid. Jump on Zoom and spend time with friends. Pet your pet, dress them up in a costume, take a picture, enter it in for the calendar. Exercise to the extent that you can. Maybe you take a bath, maybe you have a hot tub you can get into. Here's the most important thing. Learn to relax, whatever that means to you. My idea of relaxing is very active. This is why this is tough for me, because I'm not an introvert. I'm not happy just sitting at home reading a book. A lot of people are loving quarantine because they don't have to go socialize. Figure out what works best for you and do that thing. Now, just real quick, I want to talk about our brain. I don't want to get too deep into our brain, but I do want to talk about our brain. So our brain does not recognize the difference between what we're thinking and imagining and what's actually happening in the outside world. So if we are ruminating about negative things, if we are having these fantasies about a negative future running through our head, our body thinks that's actually happening. We are going to have a fight or flight response. We're going to start to have a physiological reaction to those things that are going on. We have enough stress without our brains creating more. So why are we doing that to ourselves? I'll give you a couple hints to stop that in just a second. The other thing is we can only focus on 7 plus or minus 2 things at any given time. So we can only see so many things in our environment at once. When I had you concentrate on the blue or the red, you missed the blue. Because our brain can only focus on so many things at once. So if we are filling our brain with positive things, if we're keeping beautiful, positive reminders around us, that's what we're going to see. Our brain is made to look out for things that are a danger. So we are more apt to notice negative things that we might view as a threat. But if you're surrounding yourself by beautiful things, and maybe it's a seashell, I'm actually not at my own house, I'm at my boyfriend's parents' house, but there's this beautiful sand dollar sitting on the desk, which kind of reminds me of the beauty of nature, and it's cool, and it's sort of comforting in a way. And there's beautiful art on the walls, and there are positive things that I'm surrounded by. If you surround yourself, if you create your environment with positive things, you're going to be more apt to see positive things. We can shift that focus to positive things. And I just want to share one quick study, which I think is pretty phenomenal. So they took a room full of asthmatics. They took 50 asthmatics whose trigger was cat dander. And they handed them all blankets and said, please put these blankets on your face. And they did. And these people started to wheeze, and they started sneezing, and they needed their inhaler, and some had to go to the ER because they felt like they were starting to get into anaphylaxis. And it turns out that these blankets were perfectly clean, perfectly new, fresh out of the bag, never near a cat. I love that study because that illustrates how powerful our minds are. What an incredible thing that our brain can be. And just as it is this amazing thing that can convince us of a physiological response to something that doesn't even have a physiological component, we can either make our life a paradise or we can make our life a hell by what we're thinking, by what we're allowing our brain to do. So I'm going to encourage you all right now, look at something beautiful, watch something funny, try to keep your thoughts as positive as you can. And this is one of my favorite techniques to do that. I love affirmations. It's estimated we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and that 50,000 of those are negative. That's a lot of negative thoughts. And those negative thoughts lead to more and more negative thoughts. That's how we're wired. So rather than trying to stop thinking of things, I'm going to encourage you to shift that thinking to thinking about something positive. And the key to affirmations is you make them short, positive, put them in the present moment, and then repeat them often. I am healthy and well, as opposed to I'm not getting sick. The more we can focus on the negative, we are going to change our thinking. We're going to rewire our brain. It's neuroplasticity. We have the ability to change the physicality, the actual physical structure of our brains just by thinking positive things. So in the same way these people were convinced they were breathing in cat dander without any cat dander, we can change our brain. We can change our perception of reality. It's pretty phenomenal. So here are a couple of my favorite affirmations. I am surrounded by supportive coworkers. My day goes smoothly and quick. I accept money from unexpected sources. It's one of my favorites. I have plenty of time. I sleep deeply and soundly. You get the idea. Make them positive and put them in the present moment. And when I work with my coaching clients, oftentimes if there's a negative thought pattern, I will work with them with affirmations to get those to change. And I was working with a gentleman, his constant negativity was about money. He was constantly saying things like, I'm broke, I can't afford that, I don't have enough. And that was really reinforced sort of how he grew up, but it moved into adulthood with him. So I taught him about affirmations, and I said, why don't you write an affirmation to help you with this? And he goes, okay. So he's writing and he's writing, he's writing and he's writing and he's writing. And I finally said, so what'd you come up with? And the affirmation he came up with was, someday I'll not be broke. No, wrong, failed on all levels. Positive. I am prosperous and abundant. I accept money from unexpected sources. Money flows easily to me, whatever it is. even if it's something as simple as I am safe. Just saying that actually starts to shift your brain, and you will start to find more and more positive things. I've had people say, what if I don't believe any of this? Or for something like, I accept money from unexpected sources. How in the world does that happen? That's something up to the outside. I'm surrounded by supportive coworkers. What if you aren't? Valid question. Here's the thing with affirmations. If they do nothing else, they shift your focus into a more positive place. And one of the other things about our brain is our brain looks for things that are familiar to us. It goes towards things we already know. So if you are constantly reinforcing that you're surrounded by supportive coworkers, your brain is actually going to try to find more supportive people. It is going to look for those positive things that you're affirming. It's just how the brain works. So it de-stresses you, it stops the fight or flight response, it shifts you to that positivity, and the more positive things you think, the more positive things you will find, just like the whole blue and red thing that I talked about at the beginning. So affirmations, the key to affirmations, repeat them often. If you're going to write them, which I do encourage, do them about a half hour before you go to bed. They go straight into the subconscious. And if you write them out in cursive, that longhand, that loopy stuff they don't teach us anymore, it goes straight to the subconscious. It goes straight into those parts that are going to start to make a difference. And I'm such a huge fan of these because here's what's so great. There's no side effects. There's no copay. There's no prescription required. And at the very least, you're going to shift your focus to something positive. So as simple as this is, one of my favorite tools. I'm learning to relax, dog, but I want to relax better and faster. I want to be in the cutting edge of relaxation. Oh, this was me. I am not a good meditator. For those of you who have seen me talk before or who have experienced up to this point, I talk fast. I walk fast, I eat fast. I'm from the East Coast originally, though I live in California now. So I have a West Coast mentality, but an East Coast delivery. Very fast, very to the point, very direct. This serves me well, except when I want to meditate. And I had all these misconceptions about meditation, right? I thought you had to sit a certain way. That I could do. I'm a dancer. Had the sitting part down, favorite part. And then you had to touch your fingers together. But I actually wasn't sure which one. And I didn't know if you touched the wrong finger, if you got like sucked into an alternate realm. And that was a little scary, like a video game. That worried me. And then you put your tongue somewhere on the roof of your mouth, behind your teeth, up on the palate. I don't know. They never clarified that. And then you rolled your eyes into the back of your head and you looked back here, but your eyes were closed. Gave me a headache every single time. Like my eyes would cross weirdly. It was bizarre. And then you slowed your breathing down, and then you blanked out your mind, and then you floated away into a million bubbles. And if it cramped too bad, if it itched, you had to ignore it. That's what I thought meditation was. And I was horrible at it. My brain would go a mile a minute. So one of two things would happen. I'd sit down and I'd pick a finger and hope for the best. And about 2 seconds in, I'd go, oh, I got to call that guy back. And I would jump off the pillow and I'd go call that guy back. And I loved this actually, because I realized if it relaxed me to a point that I could remember my to-do list friends, yeah, great for that. So I started doing this every day. I called it my to-do list meditation. And I would sit down long enough to remember all the things I had to do. And then I'd jump up and go do those things and take great pleasure in crossing them off the list. And if I forgot to put them on the list, I would put them on the list simply to cross them off. I'm that person, triple Capricorn. So that was my to-do list meditation. And I talked to everybody about my to-do list meditation. And one day, finally, this woman goes, I don't think that's what it's for. And I went, bummer. Or I would sit down, pick a finger, and I'd, shh, okay, quiet, you're meditating. Okay, be quiet, stop thinking. Stop thinking. Nope, you're thinking. Oh, great, now I'm thinking about not thinking. That can't be right. Oh, great, a car alarm. Seriously? A car alarm right now? Is that my car alarm? Do I have a car alarm? I should get a car alarm. I'm living in LA. I should get a car alarm. You know what? I want a whole new car. I want a Beamer. Oh my God. I would look so good driving a blue convertible Beamer. I could go to the beach and I could take my friend, and this whole fantasy would ensue. Next, 20 minutes later, I had this great image of me driving around California in a Beamer convertible, but I didn't meditate. I thought this is just how my life was going to be. Until I went to Harvard. I've had the privilege of studying with them like 5 or 6 times, some of the geniuses of mind-body medicine, everybody from Thich Nhat Hanh and Jon Kabat-Zinn and just amazing people. And she explained that we were going to meditate. And this woman was kind of phenomenal. She talked like this. She was very soothing and very comforting and very, very slow. It was driving me crazy. I don't know why she couldn't finish a sentence quicker. But anyway, she was talking about meditation, and she said there were only 2 rules of meditation. I got very excited. I hope one was sitting, because I had that part down. She explained the 2 rules of meditation were focus on something repetitive, and when thoughts move through, dismiss them without judgment. And I loved the way she said that, when thoughts move through, because they're going to, because every 3 to 5 seconds, our brains have something really important to tell us. And if they don't have something really important to tell us, they'll make up something that's really important to tell us, like the whole BMW fantasy or the to-do list. Different parts of ourselves are going to try to talk when we are still in that just self. So I would love to share the meditation the same way she did with us. So I'm going to invite you all again to close your eyes. And go ahead, just concentrate on your breathing. And you're not trying to change it. You're not trying to slow it down or speed it up. You're just paying attention to what it's doing. Just watching it, just like we did in that first exercise. And on your next inhale, I want you to think, I am. And on all of your inhales, think, I am. And on your next exhale, think, at peace. And on all of your exhales, think, at peace. Inhale, I am. Exhale, at peace. And if other thoughts intrude, that's totally okay. Acknowledge they're there and dismiss them without judgment. Let them float away like clouds on a summer day. And just return to the breath and the I am at peace. And if something itches, you can scratch it. And if you need to move, you can. You can let your shoulders drop. You can let your belly relax. No one's looking. Inhale, I am. Exhale, at peace. And go ahead, take one more deep inhale, I am, exhale, at peace, and open your eyes and come back to the room. Yay, you guys just meditated. For those of you who have seen me do this before, it's a nice reminder. For those of you that are learning this for the first time, welcome to the beautiful world of meditation. We did this for about 10 minutes, and we did this in between every session of this 5-day thing. So by the time we got to the end of the week, we were doing it for half an hour. But when she first said, open your eyes and come back to the room, and I was in the front row because I'm that person, I went, I hope she wasn't waiting for me, because she was silent for quite a while after that. And when I finally opened my eyes and looked at her, she kind of gave me this knowing nod, so she could tell I got it. I do this every day. While I was being introduced and you guys were all talking, I was doing this. I do this in the car. Don't close your eyes. Creates a whole other set of problems. I do this before I speak, before I write, before I go to get a business meeting, before I make a phone call. This immediately stops the stress response. Just concentrating on the breath is great. When you add in the mantra, the I am at peace, it shuts out other thoughts, because 2 thoughts can't occupy the same space at the same time. So to the extent that you can keep thinking I am at peace, or whatever you want to think, it could be Jesus Christ, it could be Mother Mary, it could be Om, it could be anything you want to. It occupies that part of your brain and allows you to relax more deeply. So that is my favorite thing. Afterwards, I'm going to be sending you all a link to doing this, just a free MP3. There's nothing to do to get that, but I want to share that with you. So that's my favorite thing, and this has allowed me to actually sit with formal seated meditation, and I've sat for up to 2 hours on the pillow and have indeed floated away into a million bubbles, and it's been such a gift. It's seriously something that's changed my life, so I'm happy to share that with you. I want to talk about gratitude. When we focus on things that we're grateful for, it helps eliminate all those negative things. And one of the things I do in my coaching practice typically is I have you write either 25 fabulous things about yourself, or I'll have you write 25 things you're grateful for. And you think, oh my gosh, 25, that's like really hard, until you think, I'm grateful for running water. I'm grateful that I have electricity and lights. I'm grateful that I've got my giant thing of iced tea. I'm grateful that I have an incredible man in my life and his incredible family who's hosting us this weekend. I'm grateful that I learned to read when I was a little kid. I'm grateful for silly things on Netflix. I'm grateful for funny cat videos. I'm grateful for the ability to turn off the TV if I don't want to watch it, whatever it is. So what I would love you all to do right now is go ahead and type in the chat some of the things that you're grateful for. I'm really curious to see what you all come up with. So just take a second and type in anything that you're grateful for. Go ahead and everybody share, because I want to share this. I want to share all this positivity with everybody. So go ahead and type in some things that you're grateful for, and I'll talk a little bit more about gratitude. When we focus on those positive things, life, yeah, Marie, life, fabulous. Yes. My supportive family. Oh, yeah. I'm grateful for the flowers everywhere. Oh, beautiful. It is that time of year. Yeah. I love that. Anybody else? Go ahead and let me know. Because it's also kind of interesting. Gratitude is very contagious. And if you're around someone that's talking about what they're grateful for, I'm grateful for my supportive husband, a loving husband and family, sunshine, my wonderful hubby. Oh, everyone's got an amazing husband. That's great. My son, a couple people with their son, beautiful. Grateful for libraries and YouTube and memes because I'm a millennial. Hey, I like memes too. I'm not a millennial. 4 dogs, loving family. Grateful I woke up today. Yeah. When it gets that simple, it really is. Every single day is a gift. And when we can remember that, the weather in California, books and taekwondo, I love it. Trees. Oh, I'm with you, Lori. I love the trees. Grandchildren. Grateful that I can still work and help support my family. Oh, for roses. Yeah, Sonny. I love it. Hold those things that you're grateful for. And maybe at night or first thing in the morning, grateful for being here listening to the talk. Oh, thanks. I'm grateful to be here with you guys, my dog, my friends. I love it. Every day, think about what you're grateful for. Wake up in the morning. Oh, thanks, Sonny. He said me. Think about what you're grateful for. And maybe it is just that you woke up and took that first deep breath. Maybe it's that you have cozy bedding. I had somebody that she goes, this sounds stupid. Nothing that you're grateful for sounds stupid. She said, I have great sheets. She goes, I love being in bed because I have great sheets. And I'm like, good for you. Yeah, that is an amazing thing to be grateful for. Grateful for the goodness about COVID. Oh yeah, we have whole conversations about that. I love that. Grateful for my Sclero family, grateful for sunshine, wonderful family, great job. Beautiful. Keep them coming. I'm actually going to close these and move on. But when we get to the end of this, scroll through and be reminded of all these incredible things that we have in our lives. Because again, when we focus on those good things, the negative ones kind of fade away, even if it's as simple as trees and roses and dogs and iced tea. Excellent. So I want to share one more story for those of you who have either seen my TEDx talk or have heard me talk before. You might have heard this story. So I decided many, many years ago that I was going to go out of the country. I went by myself. It was my first time out of the country. I was incredibly privileged to go, and I'm grateful to get to travel so much when I can for my job. The first place I wanted to go was the countryside of England. I was obsessed with it since I was a kid. And one of my goals, I don't believe in a bucket list, but one of my goals really was to go see Stonehenge. And so I got to England. I realized the only way I was going to get to see all of the things I wanted to see was to rent a car. So I did. My very first time out of the country by myself, I rented a car. I headed off into the country. I drove on the wrong side of the car, on the wrong side of the road. A little terrifying, a little stressful at first. But after a while, I had it down. It was fabulous. So my first stop was Stonehenge. And I know I was there because I have like 700 pictures of me doing this kind of thing. I barely remember it. I loved it. It was magical. I left Stonehenge and I headed to Avebury, where the entire town is a henge, a big stone circle. And you walk down this mile of stones and the entire town is basically surrounded by these giant stones, and you can touch them and hug them and sit against them. And I meditated, didn't know what I was doing. And then I went from there to Bath, because the Roman influence was mind-blowing. And I put my hand in the water and touched it, even though I didn't think I was supposed to, but how could I not? And then I went to this little town called Stanton Drew. Stanton Drew was incredible. There's a church, a couple houses, and a henge, this stone circle in this guy's backyard. And you can put a couple of coins in this box if you want as a donation. And then I walked past cows and sheep, and I was the only one there. It was a small henge, but it was really cool. And I sat in the center of this henge and I meditated. I tried not to do my to-do list because I was on vacation. I had nothing to do. But I tried to blank out my mind, and I tried to not think about the future BMW, which I still don't have. But I was there in this space. It was truly magical. But my ultimate goal, my ultimate reason for wanting to go to the countryside other than Stonehenge was this, the tour, Ancient Avalon. I was going to stay in Glastonbury. I was going to climb that mountain, hillside at sunset. I was going to put my arms up in the air and hope to get sucked into some ancient and mystical realm. I was on a spiritual quest. I was sure I was going to land in Avalon. I was absolutely sure it would happen. And so I was meditating in Stanton Drew, and I realized if I wanted to get to Glastonbury to check into my bed and breakfast and to climb the tour at sunset, I was going to have to leave. So I jumped in the car, and I'm higher than I've ever been. I feel so good. I got to see all this incredible stuff, dream come true, best day of my life up to that point. And I'm driving along, and I got a handle on this wrong side of the road, wrong side of the car thing. And I come around a blind curve, and there's a truck in my lane. And he runs me off the road, and my tire hits this low stone wall that skirts the countryside of England, and I blow the tire. And I don't just blow the tire, I actually bend the rim on the brand new Audi they gave me, and I was trapped. I was stuck. Truck didn't stop. I was stranded there on the side of the road as I realized that I was going to be late. I was going to miss the sunset. And I was furious. And in this moment, I went from my highest high to my lowest low as I realized this was the most unfair thing ever. How could this happen to me? This was my vacation. I'm an only child. So when things interfere with what I want to do, not real happy about it. You other only children get it. But I pulled it together enough. I realized I had to call AAA. Their version was AA. So I got on my global cell phone at like $5 a minute, and I called AA, and they said it could take them 90 minutes to get to me. Oh my God, this is a nightmare. This is the worst day of my life. Everything sucks. Why is this happening to me? And I went down the spiral of negativity again. Then I pulled it together enough, and I realized, I've got to call the bed and breakfast. This woman's waiting for me. So I call the bed and breakfast, and she answers the phone, and I immediately start in. I was so negative. I was so upset. This is terrible. I'm on the side of the road. I don't know what's wrong with you people. And in my country, people would stop if they say a woman on the side of the road. And I was just going off on this, and she interrupts me. And she says, "Are you safe?" And I said, "I don't know if I'm safe or not." I said, "It's starting to get dark, and there's all these cars, but no one's stopping, and I'm looking for the truck." And she interrupts me again, and she says, "Are you looking at something pretty?" Really? Am I looking at something pretty? No, I'm not looking at something pretty. What is wrong with you? I'm sitting on the side of the road, and I'm looking around this corner for every single car to see if the truck is coming. And she interrupts me again. She says, "So you'll sit, you'll wait, you'll look at something pretty, you'll get here when you get here." And the bitch hung up on me. Click, hung up the phone. Did not help my mood. I was furious. I was doing math in my head of what time is it in California? Can I phone a friend to just complain about what's going on? And I realized that wasn't feasible. And so I sat there for a second just stewing that no one was stopping for me and that this had interrupted my plans. And then I thought for a minute, and I thought, you know what? She's right. I can't change any of this. Why don't I see if there's something pretty? And so for the first time, I turned away from the road, and that's what was behind me. Not that exact thing, because I didn't have the sense to take a picture of what was actually there because it didn't have some ancient structure on it, but that's pretty much what it looked like. And the sun was starting to go down, and there was that God light that photographers talk about, that beautiful amber glow where the colors aren't necessarily brighter, but they're more vibrant somehow. And as the sun was going down, there was these shrubberies out in this field, and I could see the shadow kind of moving around the shrubberies, and then the wind would blow, and I could smell this sweet grass that if I think about it, I can still remember what that smells like. And then the wind would shift a different way, and I could hear cows out in that field enjoying the sunset with me. And I flipped my leg over this like 2-foot tall wall, and I watched nature go to sleep. And I just watched all of this unfold, and it was spectacular, and it was beautiful. And then the tow truck guy came, and we changed the tire, and I left. I was maybe 45 minutes behind schedule. And yeah, I missed seeing the sunset that night on the tour, but you know what? I had a whole nother night to see it. And I realized this spiritual quest that I was on, Had nothing to do with me standing on a hill with my arms up in the air. It had to do with this woman basically telling me to sit there and shut up and to be present and to change my focus. And I have thought about this lesson so often as I'm stuck in traffic, as I'm stuck on hold, as I'm sitting at the doctor, whatever it's doing, to focus on something pretty, because there's always something pretty we can focus on. Even if it's our own breath, even if it's a ring, if it's our fingernails, whatever it is, put something in your environment, your car, make your screensaver on your phone something that makes you smile, and look at something pretty. Because we choose where we put our focus. And when we're looking at something pretty, we take less risks, we're calmer, we have better cognitive function, we stop that stress response, we completely reverse that fight or flight response. Helps balance all of the negativity in our lives. We are so inundated with negativity right now. Turn off the news, turn off Twitter, turn off Facebook, and look at something pretty or something funny, something that lifts us up rather than tears us down. That's our choice. We can always push a button and choose to look at something else. Where do you want to put your focus? I love this cartoon because the guy on the left is like, wait, there's an outside? He didn't even consider to change his focus. And that's how I felt sitting on the side of the road until the woman told me to look at something pretty. I have one last story, and then I'll open it up to any questions. I had a client who was a human resources director. She was amazing at her job. She was conscious and conscientious, and she loved every aspect of it except firing people. And she was told on a Monday she had to fire this guy on a Friday, because I guess that's when you do it. And this one was exceptionally hard for her for a couple of reasons. One of which is they had just brought him into the company, and he was incredibly good at what he did. He was just a genius. But they had reorganized some things, and after only 6 weeks, they decided they didn't need his position anymore. And she was devastated. Not only that, but he had just moved everything to Santa Barbara. It's really hard to do. He had just bought a house. Really hard to do. He had just gotten married. Oh, no. They just found out they were pregnant. I am not making this up. And of all things, it was like 3 weeks before Christmas. So this woman spent a week agonizing over how she was going to do this. She was not sleeping. She wasn't eating. She was vomiting. She had diarrhea. She had these crying jags where she didn't know how she was going to sit this guy down and tell him that he was no longer needed after this short amount of time in the midst of these circumstances. So she has an absolute week of hell. Friday comes, she sits him down in the conference room. She's practically got tears in her eyes. She looks at him and finally just decides to tear off the proverbial Band-Aid. She takes a deep breath and says, I am so sorry, we've eliminated your position and we have to let you go. And then she braced for what she thought was going to be this huge reaction. And he put his hands on the table and he looked at her. And he took this deep breath and said, oh, thank God, I found another job and wanted to quit, but I wasn't sure how to tell you. She spent a week driving herself crazy on the what ifs. We all do this. Why are we doing this to ourselves? We don't know what the future holds. If something bad is going to happen, it's going to. To quote Thich Nhat Hanh, why suffer twice? Why are we dragging this potentially negative future into our present? Because like I said, our brain also looks towards things that are familiar. So if we're constantly expecting something negative to happen, we're going to find more and more negative things. We're going to find more and more red things to the exclusion of the blue. So to the extent that we can, stay present, stay focused on those positive things. I'm going to be on the right side of the bus. You guys have a choice as to where you sit and what you focus on. So I encourage you to make those different choices or to amplify those choices if you're already focused on those positive things. Do those affirmations, take a breath, do a mini meditation, write your gratitude list, share that with people around you, share those amazing things that are positive. Too much negativity going on right now. I have books that are available on my site. They're $10 and $15, talking about everything from stress and stress reduction to Journey of Healing is how I found every practice that I do, and some personal stories thrown in, like the England story. So if you like that sort of thing, that's in there as well. Please keep in touch. I'm doing one-on-one coaching now and group coaching. And as you know, I come into organizations and I do stuff like this. I'm at kathygruver.com or kathygruver.coach if you want to book a quick discovery session to see how I can help. And I have a new podcast, Fire and Earth Podcast, which drops every Thursday. Friend me on Facebook. I'm all over the internet. And I'm so happy to be here with you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping this group going. To the organizers, I know having support like this is so important, especially during these crazy times. So if you guys have any questions, I'm here. Please feel free to email me. Like I said, I'll reach out and get you all that mini meditation. And that's it. I'm really happy to be here. So thanks so much.